can already feel the hatred coming off every Marvel fanboy who clicked on this video. First things first, I'm gonna say this loud and clear, I will be talking about spoilers, so if you're willing to hear me rant about why I think this movie is a cheap, insulting, manufactured cash grab, I recommend you go in either already knowing about the spoilers or having already seen the film. That is your final warning, and my rant will now commence. Now that everyone who didn't want to know about spoilers is gone, I feel free to point out how mentally dense they are. Come on! Was there seriously anyone in existence that did not believe Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire would be in this movie? There was a reason Marvel strategically left them out of the trailers, I know. There's no way in hell this movie could have broken so many box office records if it had been announced beforehand that they were in the film. And even if it had, a majority of those people would have only gone to see this movie for the sole reason that I'm making this video. Novelty and nostalgia. This is the most fan-servicey movie in existence. Now, fan service doesn't have to be inherently bad, but when it is the crux of your entire story, you lose my support. And let me make this abundantly clear, I don't care if you're someone who thinks that this movie is great. You are allowed to think that. A lot of people left this movie thinking it was a fun movie-going experience, and I can't fault them for that. My purpose in making this video is not to insinuate that you're somehow wrong in liking the movie. All of the anger I'm about to express is directly aimed at the studio that made it. Even if you enjoyed the movie, you deserve to be made aware how low the people who made it think of you. If for some reason you are blissfully unaware of the plot for No Way Home, it centers around Peter Parker convincing Doctor Strange to cast a spell that will make people forget Spider-Man's identity. Shit gets fucked up in the process, and everyone who knows Peter Parker's identity from other universes, aka the other live-action Spider-Man franchises, gets transported into the Avengers universe. And the rest of the movie is Peter, MJ, and Ned facing the consequences of this, as all the villains from the other properties reprise their roles and Peter tries to cure them of everything that makes them villainous so they don't have to be sent back to their universes only to be killed. Jesus. My whole opinion of this movie can be summarized in this next sentence I'm about to speak. Everything this movie was attempting to achieve, Spider-Verse did infinitely better. Those who follow my channel know that I'm a simp for the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, and they will forever be my favorite animated films in existence. But if I had to choose any movie that I think deserves a runner-up for that title, it would probably be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's an animated film that tackles the same multiverse theory that seems ever-present in the Spider-Man comics. And it's also a film that included a bunch of references to the already existing Spider-Man movies. Everything that No Way Home was trying to achieve. But the reason Into the Spider-Verse works so much better is because the story of that film is still organic. Even though it brings in characters that Spider-Man fans are already familiar with, the film allows these characters to function seamlessly in conjunction with Miles Morales' story. But Audrey, Spider-Verse also used blatant references to properties like the Sam Raimi trilogy. Yes, but it was a 5-second joke in the opening sequence of the movie. In Spider-Man No Way Home, it is the crux of the entire story. Ugh. Okay. You may be thinking, yes, No Way Home solely relies on the love of other Spider-Man franchises and therefore nostalgia to make the story function at all. But is that really such a bad thing? Yes, and let me tell you why. Let's examine the legacy the Avengers Spider-Man franchise leaves. After all the hype about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire reprising their roles dies down, we're left with the conclusion of a trilogy that Marvel fans have grown to love. Being the final installment of something so prolific, the writers and producers should have been worried about crafting a bittersweet, yet fitting ending for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. This movie should make us feel more emotional than either of the other two that came before it. The end of this movie revolves around Peter Parker losing Aunt May and facing the ramifications that everyone who's ever met him or developed a relationship with him doesn't remember that he exists. He has to say goodbye to everyone. This should be the emotional punch in the gut that we've been building up to for the past 3 movies, not including Spider-Man's appearance in other MCU films. And while this ending is not inherently void of emotion, it just doesn't feel earned. Something felt extremely off about everything this movie was trying to do, and when I went to do some digging on what happened during its production to make it like this, I figured I'd find some typical bullshit where the writers wanted to go one way, but the studio wanted to go another, and we end up with a compromise that made the whole narrative seem messy. But as it turns out, it was so much worse than that. No Way Home began filming in late 2020, and at that time, they still didn't know if all the actors from the previous franchises, i.e. the villains/other Spider-Men, were going to be available to make it in the film. And they couldn't just continue with a few of them, they needed to have everyone or no one. This led to major confusion on set and with the story in general. Hell, when they started filming, the third act hadn't even been written yet. Let me repeat that. When they started filming, the script wasn't even finished. And this isn't coming from some Randy on set that had a vendetta because the film didn't go a certain way and they kept having to change it. This came directly from Tom Holland. It even got to the point that he didn't believe the stuff his character was saying. So he, the lead actor, who shouldn't feel obligated to take narrative production into his hands at all, went to the writers and pitched a completely different ending, which resulted in them rewriting it again, and I'm assuming it's the ending that we got. Alright, why does this even matter? What I'm trying to point out is that it was never the writer's intention to give audiences a fitting conclusion for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It was their intention to get as many people to the theater in light of Marvel movies continuously bombing after COVID forced so many of them to premiere on Disney+. Do you really think it's a coincidence that this is Marvel's first major superhero film to be released solely in theaters since the start of the pandemic? Now this is obviously just my theory, and you can feel however you want about it. But it just seriously angers me how the makers of this film can take arguably the most genuine Marvel superhero in existence and do something so disingenuous with his story. They could have spent this last movie making Peter and MJ's relationship actually compelling in any way, besides the whole she was virtually useless in the first movie, and in the second movie Peter suddenly likes her for no reason. They could have made us actually care about Aunt May, besides spending the first two movies making her nothing but a punchline, and then in a 3-minute scene convincing Peter that villains deserve a second chance for no reason besides the script needed to give her something to do. Other things that irked me included the runtime. I think that the 2.5 hours was completely unwarranted. The whole mirror dimension scene literally made me nauseated to look at, and the intended effect worked way better in Spider-Verse. Why was Tobey Maguire getting stabbed by the Green Goblin made so dramatic, just for it not to matter and him to be like, I'm fine, I've been stabbed before? Why was Doctor Strange punching Peter out of his physical body made to be such a groundbreaking discovery for him, only for it never to be brought up or used again? The ending fight was kinda cool, but I think the Statue of Liberty wasn't the best choice for a location. There were no real consequences on their surroundings that the characters had to be aware of, so the stakes were pretty low. Also, the Statue of Liberty is on a fucking island. How did Spider-Man even get there? It's possible he could have taken a portal and I just genuinely don't remember it. But Doc Ock also made it there. He definitely didn't go through a portal, and he also can't fucking fly. The dialogue was really cheesy most of the time, and when I left the theater, I had a headache from the number of times I rolled my eyes. There were way too many characters at any given time, and after the 4th instance of a villain from a different universe being filled in on what was happening, I got really annoyed. Again, something Spider-Verse did way better and was actually self-aware of.
How did you get here? Well, it's kind of a long story. Maybe not that long.
As far as things I liked about the movie, there really aren't that many. I didn't have a problem with any of the actors, and I thought they all did great for what they were working with. Tom Holland really saved this movie. In more ways than one, apparently. Zendaya was fine, except for the fact that her character has no personality aside from cynical asshole, which isn't inherently bad. I'm a cynical asshole, but it was literally her only character quality besides generic love interest who I didn't have any stake in at all. The best part of this movie for me was any scene involving Alfred Molina, and it has nothing to do with the fact that his character provided nostalgia from the Sam Raimi trilogy that I grew up with and has arguably been deemed one of the most influential superhero movies of all time. It is literally just because I have a hard-on for him. Okay, fine. It's less so Alfred Molina himself and more so his voice. I'm sexually attracted to Viggo Grimborn, okay? Fucking sue me. I am not kidding. There was a point in the movie where he said the words, "Dear boy."
Well, it's good to see you, dear boy.
My dear Hiccup, my dear Hiccup, my dear Hiccup, poor dear Hiccup.
and I almost had an orgasm in the theater. While I hated the fact that the whole crux of the story relied on Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man characters being in it, admittedly, they were extremely charming and I enjoyed the scenes that they were in. It was amusing to see all three of them bantering on about the differences between their universes, and that takes up quite a bit of the third act, but all I kept thinking was, holy shit, if I were someone who'd only followed the MCU and had never seen the previous two Spider-Man franchises, I would not be able to follow anything they were saying. I thought it was funny that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was constantly taken the least seriously of the three, like they were actually self-aware that his franchise probably should have never happened. And I did enjoy the very ending of the movie, where Peter chooses not to go back to MJ and Ned and lets them live their lives without the burden of knowing he's Spider-Man. Again, probably Tom Holland's doing, but it did work very well. I was a little confused at the stinger where it's teased that Venom will make a future appearance in the Avengers universe, given that this is Tom Holland's final portrayal of Spider-Man. Who the hell knows what they're planning? Anyways, that's all I really have to say about this film. Again, if you enjoyed it, I understand. I don't think you're stupid or brainless for doing so, but I do urge you to pay attention to the production of films before you go out and spend a bunch of money supporting them. If I hadn't wanted to make a video on it, I probably would not have spent the money to see this movie. I know I sounded super angry, but it was really just because I hate cash-hungry executives from billion-dollar studios, and trust me, I'm saving my genuine anger for something else that's coming out very soon. Merry fucking Christmas.